Hello, my name is William Jett, and this is a presentation on the iOS application that I developed called Trailblazer. So let's get started. First, I'd like to talk about the inspiration for the application, which started out as a more basic idea, and it was basically just going to only track your position and while you were hiking specifically, and that way if you got lost, it would give you a way to figure out where you came from so that you wouldn't be lost anymore, essentially. So that was kind of the initial idea that sparked the idea for this application, and as you'll see later, there's a few more features that have been added to it to make it into the application that it is currently. So first, I'd like to show you the UML diagram for the application. So if you look at the top left of the diagram, you can see there's a class called pin location and another one called GPS location. These are pretty similar classes. So pin location was used to model pins on a map view, and the GPS location was only used to model the user's GPS location and save those and ultimately use them to print out the path that they walked on the map. And then there is the adventure class, which is down a little bit on the left part of the diagram. And this represents each adventure that you do while using the application. And each adventure has a name, a picture, and some coordinates, which are just GPS coordinates. And there's three methods. One's the fetch request method, which is because this is a class that is modeled in core data, you have to do a fetch to get the data from the device storage. And there's the save method and delete method, which are both used for saving and removing adventures from storage. Then there's the four view controller classes, which the first one is it's called view controller, which is the main view that you'll see when you start up the application on your device. And there's a couple of text fields for taking in user input. There's a UI image view, which is for displaying a picture on the main view. And there's a couple methods. One's for a button, and the other is for a segue into the next view, which is the adventure view, which is the top right of the diagram. And this view has a map. It has a couple labels for displaying GPS coordinates. It has a location manager, which is used for getting the user's location, and several other fields. And the only really important ones you need to pay attention to are there's also an array of GPS locations, which is the user's locations as they walk or bike or hike or whatever. And then there is a UI image picker controller, which is used for, or it allows for the user to pick an image from their photo library and associate it with their adventure. And there's a bunch of methods. Most of them are just delegate methods for putting pins on the map, or like specifically there's a map view method that returns an MK overlay renderer, which is for printing the line that shows where you've walked or biked or whatever. There's also another prepare method for the segue into the next view, which is the adventure table view, which just lists all of your adventures in a table view with the name as the cell. And that of course has all of the table view data source and delegate methods. It has a fetch record method, which is, so this is the view controller where the core data is dealt with. It's saved, or a new adventure is saved, or it's deleted. So that's where this happens. And finally there's the finished adventure view, which is just the detail view for the table view. And this also has a map, and it displays the path that you made for that adventure specifically, and it shows the picture. That's what the UI image is for, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the UML diagram and the structure of the application. So let's move on to the MVC architecture of the application. So just starting at the view part of the MVC architecture, it reacts to the how the user interfaces with the application. So it reacts to taps. It'll take in data that they type into the text fields, and it also displays any components on the map or in the table view or in the any photos that you want to display also. So you can also see user actions. So the view communicates with the controller by giving it data that was input or events that were initiated in the view, and the controller can update the view by calling methods such as the reload data method, which would update what the table view looked like after either adding an adventure or removing one. And as you can see, the controller, it handles user input. This is also where all the API calls are made. And it also interacts with the model by fetching adventure objects and saving them. Or saving them or deleting them from the core data. So the model can communicate with the controller by notifying that there's been some change through the fetch request method, and the controller can communicate to the model by updating it by either saving new adventures or saving the adventures after one has been deleted or something like that. So that's pretty much it for the MVC architecture of the application. So let's move on to the actual walkthrough of the application. So this is the main view that you'll see once you start the application on your device. So you'll have to put in a name for the adventure and a fraction, which is usually a fraction of a mile or a kilometer or whatever. And usually 0.2 or 0.3 is probably a pretty good number for most people's adventures, just taking a walk or going on a short hike. Maybe if you're going a longer hike, maybe 1 or 2 miles would be better. So then you'd hit Start Adventure, and first thing that'll happen is actually ask for your permission to get your location. You'll have to hit Allow or Dismiss or whatever. And then it'll show your location on the map with this blue dot, and it'll display your location with the 2 labels below the map. First one's your latitude, and the second one is your longitude. And the first thing you can do, you can click on the Trails button, and it'll display trails on the map with pins. And if you click the pins, it'll show the name of the trail. And if you hit the info, little eye, the circle around it, it'll show the rating for the trail. It's just other people rating the trail, and you can use that to make your decision on what trails you want to go visit. Or you can click the Campgrounds button, which will show campgrounds near you. You can do the similar thing as you did with the trails, just click on that, give you some information about the campground. So then after doing that, it does zoom out a little bit just to display so you can see all of the locations around you. You can hit the zoom in on me button, and it'll zoom in on your current location if that's what you would like to do. And then after you're done, you might want to add a photo, so you hit the Add Photo button, which is at the bottom right there of the application. And you can choose a photo from your photo library, and this will also ask for your permission to access your photos. So after you do that, it will associate a photo with your application, and then you just hit Finish and Save Adventure, and that'll take you to the table view, which will display the adventure name in one of the cells of the table view, and so you can click on that, and it will take you to the detail view, which displays the photo that you chose. And if you don't choose a photo, this is the photo that you'll see. It'll also display the path that you made while doing your adventure. So you can hit back and it will take you back to the adventure, or the table view. And if you want to, you can delete the adventure or some other adventures. You type in the name into the text field at the top right and hit delete, and it will remove it. And that's pretty much it for the walkthrough. So I just wanted to talk about some drawbacks of the application, maybe some things that I would change in the future for the application. The first thing is that you can only save one photo to the application. You might want to make that so you can have several more, as many as you'd like. Maybe have another table view to list all the photos for each adventure. Another thing would be that you're kind of restricted to the amount of things that you can search for. Campgrounds and trails, maybe make that a more general search, so you can just search for anything that you might. You can search for gas stations or water stations, or maybe just something more specific that you'd like to search for. That'd be something that I could improve upon. So I can't really think of too many other drawbacks right now. I'm sure there are some more, and now I'd like to talk about some of the main learning experiences I had while making the application. I think probably the first thing I can think of, the biggest hurdle in developing this application, was figuring out how to actually map out your path that you made while walking around. Since we didn't learn this in the class or anything, I had to do quite a bit of research on figuring out how to make that work correctly. Figuring out all the delegate methods that you had to implement, and how to construct the overlay and all that, and how not to update your position too often, so that way it would drain your battery. And so that was the whole thing. Some other things that I learned that were separate from the class, new things that I learned while making the application, was just how to make an application that was a bit more complex than I was used to. Usually make simple things with just maybe a couple views. This has a total of like 4 views, and it basically culminates everything that we learned in the class into one application. So that was interesting, just figuring out how to make everything work together in a way that wouldn't crash the application or anything like that. And finally, I guess something interesting that I learned was how to use the core data with something other than just regular like single integer values and stuff like that, because I had to store an array of GPS coordinates, and that was interesting. I had to figure out you had to learn some new methods in Swift that would allow you to actually store an array like that, and fetching them back after you save them to core data. You have to cast them into a certain type of data, and then so that was definitely something that took quite a while figuring out how to do. But so I think that's probably about it. I hope you enjoyed seeing this application. Hopefully you'll maybe use it in the future to go on some adventures. And thanks for listening. Appreciate it.